Okay, hopefully you are able to hear me. Okay. Now let's wait a couple of more minutes because at the beginning we had some issues with starting the meeting. But I guess now we are able to see the screen as well. So similar to lectures, we are going to be recording the labs as well, and we are going to share it online. So that if you had like connection issues, etc., you will be able to watch it again. And I'm using a different software to make the recording, therefore you are not going to see the recording sign in the Zoom software. To keep things more stable, because I heard that it might sometimes ruin the recorded video. And if you have your microphones while you are listening, please keep it muted so that we would have like better communication. But now to test the sound, can somebody like open the microphone and say something? Because I might have to like change my the hearing options. Okay, let me check it. Süleyman, sen bir şey der misin? Şimdi tekrar deniyorum. Tamam, okay. And you are able to like interrupt me at any time, so don't forget to unmute your microphones to do so. And I think some people, Süleyman şu an desene bir. Tamam, duyuyorum, evet. Tamam. If you have Access installed, it will be good to follow me. And if you don't have, if you have the Windows computers, you can download it. We have instructions. We send you an email. We updated our instructions on the Azure, Microsoft Azure sites. There is freely available access for you. If you log in with your, or let's say activate your Bilkent mails. But it's only you can only install it on Windows systems. So if you have like some other systems, you might try like virtual operating systems. In that case, if you need a Windows license, it is also available in the Microsoft Azure. Yeah, you can use the Windows license to like just install any computer on any computer. Mm-hmm. So okay, some announcements first. We had like previously you were working on the project design stage 2, and like we have an upcoming due date for it. And it is like some simple task, right? You need to revise your ER diagram based on the feedback. So if you need like additional feedback, you can ask us with the email. And if you need to talk, we can arrange a Zoom meeting as well, in case you need. And we also want you to convert your ER diagram into a relational schema. And in here, basically, you need to like show the name of each of the tables and define the attribute types, show what is the primary key of the table, and if there are any foreign keys, we expect you to write about the foreign keys as well. So you don't really need to put the photo, so we can update the like the instructions on it, or it can be a screenshot from the meeting, like the online meeting it could be, but it is not necessary. Any other questions about the design stage 2? So it is a simple task, therefore we are not postponing it right now, so we need to upload them on time. We also assigned a homework 2, and in homework 2 there are basically 10 SQL questions. We want you to answer them using SQL code, and you don't need to implement a database for it. You don't need to use Access for it. But if you want, you can create these tables, put some data in the database, and check whether your SQL queries are right or not. So it might be useful to test it using Access. Otherwise, you can just directly write the SQL queries. After the submission, so after some time, because we have like 3 days of like after 3 days people can still upload the homework with some points reduced. So after that we might publish the answers. I will talk with the teacher. Hopefully we can publish it, or we might like look at the answers during a lecture or so. So basically it's yeah, right. So in the queries that we are going to do now, they are similar to the homework questions. So it will help with you with the homeworks. For the old quizzes, right now they are in our office building, in the EA building, and we are not able to go there. I think the security doesn't allow us to go there. So therefore, I think for some of the quizzes that might be the answers, but you may not be able to see your own quizzes because they are not in our hands right now. Let me get to here. So for this lab, we have this example database. Please, if you are using the Access, you might download it from the web. We are going to work on this database, and after this lab finishes, I will also put the SQL queries that we did for this lab as well. And we have a query questions txt file here, and basically in this lab we would like to write these SQL queries. And if you are to open this database, it is like this. So since I downloaded from the web, I need to first enable the content to be able to run queries in it. And there are 4 different tables in this database. And if it is not a database you implemented, an easier way to see what is being done in this database is to go to the relationships view. If I go into the relationships view, I will see the relations in between those tables. So in this database, actually we are following such an ER diagram. So basically we have a bunch of students. Students are stored with their names, surnames, ages, and payments. And there are student groups with group names, and each student can join a group. So using the relation in group, we are storing which student is in which group. And there are leaders or heads of groups. And from here, I see that there is total participation. So we are basically saying that in each group, there should be a leader, exactly one leader, because this is a one-to-one relationship. And on the other side, we are saying that with this total participation, every student should join in a group. And on this side, we are saying that in every group, there should be at least one student. And since this is a one-to-many relationship, we are basically saying that in each group there could be many students, but a student can belong to only one group. On the other side, we are not allowing multiple people to be the leader of a group. We also have a many-to-many relationship works in. So with this one, we are basically assigning some jobs or projects to student groups. And since this is a many-to-many relationship, we are saying that multiple groups could work on a project or a job, and a job or a project could be done by multiple people. And for each project, we are keeping a description and a budget. And remember, sometimes to reduce the number of tables, we might combine some relations with their entities during implementation. And in this database, what we have is actually that. So if we look here, since we know that for every student there would be a group, we are kind of combining this relation into the student. So we are keeping the foreign key inside the student to say the information about which group this student is in. So if I look at the student table, I will see there is a group no attribute here. And basically we are using it as a foreign key that references the table S group. So these are the groups. I have an instance of the student table. And with this instance, I'm combining the group number of the students with the group number of S group. And while I was creating this link, since these two are entities now, so when we were dragging and dropping the attributes, we were starting from the entity into the relation. But this time, I'm kind of combining the relation with the entity. Therefore, I need to start from the one that acts as an entity. It is S group for this link. I drag from S group into the students where I combine the relationship. And for the head of, it's a one-to-one relation. But since we have the total participation on S group side, so for a group, I'm assigning the leader. Not every student is a leader of a group. Therefore, I need to combine it with the S group entity. And for this one, I need to drag starting from the student, since it acts like an entity for this link, into the S group. So if we look into here, we have two different instances of the same table, because otherwise we cannot define two different links. So if I didn't have this other instance, I cannot create the link for the head of. So therefore I included another instance of the same table. You can bring as much as you want into this picture and create different links. So between entities in the student table, I'm keeping a foreign key. Group number references the groups, and in the group table, I'm keeping a foreign key group heads that references students. And for the works in, since this is a many-to-many relationship, we cannot combine it. So for the one-to-ones and one-to-manys, we can combine them to reduce the number of tables, but for many-to-many relationships, we cannot do such thing. So therefore, we have the separate project table and also the table for works in separately. And if you missed the last lab, so to create an SQL query, previously we followed going through create and then query design. And using this window, we were able to create queries using QBE, query by example. But if you want to write the SQL code directly, then you can just close this table dialog and right click on your query name and go into the SQL view. And in here, in this view, we can directly write our SQL code. And I'm not going into the detail of the last lab, but for example, the most basic one is to project everything from one of the tables, maybe the student table. And to run this query, I'm going to click on this run button under the design tab, not the view, sorry, run button. And it will run the query and display the results. Since this is a projection, we will see different entries. So today we are going to try to write these queries. So they are not like in order of difficulty, but let's start with the first one. So what we need to do is to list the name, surname, and group name. So basically in the homework as well, at the first part we are saying what to project. So for this query I need to project the name, surname, and group name of all students. So I'm not making a selection, right, in terms of the relational algebra. For relational algebra we were using the sigma character for selection, or in the SQL code we are saying we are putting some conditions. So if I'm saying all students, then there is no condition on the data, but I want them to be ordered by the group name first and then the student name within each group. So I need to list the name and surname of all students. Okay, let's start going to here, and in here since the indentation parts kinda the indentation part could be problematic to see it in a better way, I'm going to write it in the notepad. Okay, and in here I'm using notepad++. It has some coloring option for SQL as well, so it will like put the keywords in bold, etc. And after we finish designing, I will copy and paste it into the query part in Access, and then we will run it. So basically in here we would like to make a selection, so I might also get the ER diagram to see what is what. Okay, so I would like to list the name, surname. Okay, the name and surname of the students. In the student table I have S name. I would like the S name and also the surname. And the group name of all students. So the group information in the student table, I keep the group number, but not the name of the group. To be able to get the group name, I need to make a join operation here. So I would like to project the group name as well, but group name is not in the student table. So after saying from, I was writing the table names. So I have the student table as well as the S group table, because the group name is not available in the student table. And we know that if we include more than one table, it will automatically make a Cartesian product. To define a join operation, I need to explicitly say on which attributes I need to make the join. So if I go back into this relationships view, to join the S group and the student table, I can use the group numbers, and I can also use the matching ID and group head. So this link defines who is the leader of this group. But for this one, I'm interested in which student is in which group. So I'm going to use this link. So I need to say my condition is for group no of student to be equal to group no of S group. So this is going to be my var condition. I will say student dot. So in here we have group no. This should be equal to S group dot group no. And I need to explicitly say which table this attribute comes from, because we have the attribute names the same. If the attribute names were different, then we would not need to like say about the table names. So for this notepad, I'm using notepad++. It's not directly installed on the computers. If you like search notepad++, you can download it. But I'm using it only for since it has like better viewing. So in the end, I'm going to just copy this code and go into my query and paste it here. So you don't need to have the notepad++, but if you want to have like this the fancy viewing of the code, you might install it, but it's not available directly. You need to like install it from its website. So, okay, this is my join condition. I'm making the join operation. I'm finding which student is in which group. Therefore, from the S group table, I can get the group name, and group name occurs in only one of the tables. So in the selection, I don't need to specify which table it is coming from, but I can also like specify it. There's no problem in writing more information there. And the other thing we need is to order them according to something. So I would like to order them first according to the group name. And we had this order by keywords. And then after saying order by, I need to define the attributes. So for the first attribute, I'm using the group name. And for the second one, I want the student names to be ordered. So within a group, the group name, since the group name is the same for some of the students, I will then order according to the student name, which is sname attribute. So at the end we also have the semicolon, and in the end I'm going to just paste my query in here, and you can also save your queries. So let's say this is for question 1, and then under this design tab I'm going to click on the run button. So in here we have our attributes or our entries, and this is our projection order. So if we want the group name to be the first thing that is shown, then I need to, like, for example, get the group name at the beginning. So I see that in this group there are these students, and they are first ordered according to the group name and then according to the student name. So any questions, problems about this query? This was a more simpler one. Now for the second one, we need to list the name and age of student doubles who have 5 years of difference in their age. So basically we need two different students. We are like inspecting something about a student. We need kind of two different instances from the same table. So we are going to do some projection. We need to show the names and ages of the students, but we are talking about student doubles, so there should be two different students. So I need to reference the student table twice. So I cannot say bring me the table student and students. I need to give a name to these different instances, otherwise I cannot like directly reference one of them. So for this one, let's say student S1 and student S2. So basically I have two different instances of the same table, the student table, and one of it I'm calling S1 and the other S2. And this time we don't need to make the join operation. So between these two students, I'm not going to say with matching IDs. So the IDs should not match, because we are inspecting different students. But I have some other conditions. So I need the student number 1 to have 5 years of difference in the age compared to student number 2. And if we go back into this the relationships view, we have this age attribute in the student stored directly. So it is not the birth dates. In the homework there is questions using the birth date. So if it is about the birth date, while you are making some comparisons, you need to be careful about it. So if somebody is born earlier, that means that he is older. But in here we just have the age attribute, so we want this -5 to be equal to s2.h, for example, and you can like reverse this. So in here we are saying that S1 should be the older one. And we are going to project the name and the age of the student. So we have the S name and we have the age, but if I just write it like this, let's also maybe try and see what errors we get. So I'm going to create a new query, going to query design, and then close that dialog and go into the SQL view. So I was expecting maybe if you are not using the Notepad++, you can just directly write your query here. I'm just using Notepad++ since it looks more easy to read in here. So I'm going to just run it, but I will get this error saying that sname could refer to more than one table. So sname could come from S2 table or S1 table. So I need to specify where is this attribute is coming from. So in here I will say, okay, from the S1 side, let's display this name and age. And if you look at into the question, we need to list the name and age of the student double. So I need to show the other student's name as well. So I'm going to just get it for S2 as well. So this is my query. I'm getting the name and age from S1 and S2. Since I don't have a join condition, it is making a Cartesian product so that we can then inspect some relations in between those entries. And if we run it like that, we will see the one on the left is 5 years older than the one on the right. So any questions, problems about this one? So this is again. Sorry, can you repeat?
You just told us that you didn't use the join operation.
Uh-huh.
And what difference does that make? Like, what if we use join operation instead of causing
Okay, so in here, now let's get rid of this where condition first. If it was just like this, when I run it, it is making a Cartesian product. So the Cartesian product means that for every student, for example, student ID 1, it is matched with every other student. So I will have one matched with one matched with 2, one matched with 3, etc. And for 2, I will have the similar thing. So this is my result in here. And when we are doing the join operation, basically we were writing here. So for this query number 1, we made the join operation. This is our join condition. So from one table, one attribute should match with the attribute of some other table to make the join operation. In here, I have the same table. So in the same table, what I can do is I can say, okay, from the students, I have this ID. And I might say, okay, this should match with S2's ID. But in, yeah, it will be the same students. So then we cannot make the comparison because on each row we have the age as the same. Okay. So for the third one, we need to list all group names as well as the average payments of each group. So the group names are available in S group table, but for the average payments, so if you look at into this relationships view in a group, we only keep the group number, the name of the group, and the foreign key that references the student table that says who is the leader of this group. But for the payment, we are basically talking about the payment of the students that are in that group. So if you look at into this student table, for every student we have a payment, and we also keep the group number, the foreign key. In here we need to use the group by keyword. So let's create a new query. I'm going to just replace this one. So first I need to list the group names. So I need the group name as well as the average payments of each group. So for the payments, I need to use some aggregate function. So let's say we want the average of some payments. And since the payment is in student table and the group names are in S group table, I need both of the tables. I need the table S group as well as the table students. And since this time again I'm including different tables, we are not interested in the Cartesian product. We would like to make the join operation. So basically if we are including more than one table and if they are the different tables, we need to make the join operation for each of the two of the tables. So my join condition is similar to the one that we had before. From the students, we have the group number, group no. It should be equal to the group no of S group. But this time, if I just try to run it like this, let me create a new query, query design, close this one, go into SQL view. If I just run it like this, then first, okay, we don't have group name in CS. Let me check it. Group name is in S group. Group name, maybe I write something wrong. Let me check it. S group. Yeah, is it because of this average? Okay, it's because of that. Okay. Yeah, okay. So if I were to use an aggregate function for the selection, then I need to make the group by. Therefore, I cannot just show it like that. Let's directly focus on the solution then. Or let me just show it like that first. So for now, I have the group names, and in each group, I will have some students. So let me just get the payments now. So I have the group name, and for the group names, I have the payment of such students, but I need to group them according to their groups, right? And in such questions, sometimes people try to group them according to the names, but with names you should be careful. So if the names are not unique, then you would have problems. Basically, if you are using the group by keyword, it is better to use the group number. But in this case, if the group names are unique, then you can just directly say, okay, in here, let's group by the group name and show the average of the payment for each of these groups. So basically, when you use the group by keyword, it is going to group the entries according to the group name, and within each group you can run some aggregate functions. In this case, we are running the average function for the payment attribute. If I run this, then I see each of the group names, and as this expression, I haven't given a name to this table, it is showing the average payment of the students that are in that group. If I go back into this query, I can rename this result. So result of this aggregate function, let's call it maybe the average. Then you would have the column name there as well. If I go back into the SQL view, if I don't know the group, if I don't know whether group names are unique or not, the basic thing would be to group them according to the group number, right? So I might say group according to the group number, but since we know that because of some rules about the group by keyword, the things I project should be a subset of the things I group by. So this was from the handout from the previous lab. So I can only project the things that I group according to, plus some aggregate functions, results of the aggregate functions. So if I'm grouping according to the group number, then I need to project the group number. So group no, this time it says that it could refer to more than one table, because in the student table as well we have the group number. So I need to specify which table this group number is coming from. Since I know that I make the join operation, then I can say either of them because they are going to be the same, but the program doesn't know that, doesn't know this join operation is done. So when there are multiple instances of the same attribute name, it is going to ask for which table it is coming from. Now I can make the grouping operation again, but this time I'm just showing the group number, as a trick to get the group names as well, you might say, okay, first group them according to the group numbers and then group them according to the group names. And since there is only one group name, I can just directly include it. Since I'm grouping according to the group number, I know that each of these rows are going to be unique if we had some group names that are same. So let me just quickly change something to show it. So in the S group, let's say we have the group name party. Let's say the group number 6 is also party. In such setup, if I go back to my SQL view and run this query again, I will see the group with the same name twice. So each referring to the group ID 6 and 7, each are different groups. But if I go back into the SQL view and if I were just grouping according to the group name, then I would have trouble because for party, so the result is not displayed because it's too narrow. So if you see like weird signs, it means that basically it cannot fit the result. But if I like make it larger, I see that the group party occurs only once because the group name is not unique. So you need to be careful about such things. So if you want to like use some shortcuts, make sure you first group according to the unique or primary keys, let's say. Any problems, questions about this one? Okay, let's continue with the fourth one. So list name and payment of students that are in the group which has the highest sum of payments. So this time we need to first find the highest sum of payments because we don't know it directly. Let's first focus on that part. So how to find the highest sum of payments, or even before that we need the sum of payments, right? So list name and payment of students that are in the group. So I need to find a group, and in that group I need to list the name and payment of the individual students. But that group should have the highest sum of payments. So in that case, first I'm interested in the sum of payments and what is the highest sum of payments, let's say. Okay, let's create a new query. Let's go into the SQL view. So if I was just interested in the maximum of the payments from the student table, this is what I would write. Okay, it finds the maximum payments, but I'm looking for the maximum within a group, right? So I need to group the students according to their groups. So I'm going to use group by. And since the student table has this foreign key group number in it, I don't need any other table right now. So just using the student table, I can group the students according to their group numbers. Going back to here, I'm going to say group now. So I'm grouping the students according to their group numbers. But in here, I'm not yet interested in the maximum of the payments. In here, for the groups, I'm interested in the sum of the payments. So if I run such query, now it is displaying the sum of payments for each of the groups. Now I'm interested in what is the maximum amount within here. So if I go back to the SQL view, so for this query, this is going to be a subquery now. There are some results in it. Okay, from this result set, select the maximum of what? So the maximum of the sum of payments, but since I haven't given a name to this column yet, I need to give a name to it. So let's say this is for the sum of the payments. Let's say this is sum of the payments. So for the subquery, let's find what is the maximum. And in here it is kind of hard to make the indentation to make it more easy to read. I'm going to write it like this. So I need the from keyword as well. So select the maximum of some pay from some subquery, which is this. So this is my subquery. Out of this subquery, there will be multiple results that is showing the sum of payments for each of the groups. And from that, select what is the maximum one. So if I paste it here and look at it, now it is the maximum of the sum of payments. Now I would like to find which group this is, because if I go back into my query, this query just finds the maximum amount. So this is the payment amount, but it is not giving any information about the group, right? So let's leave it aside. With some query, I need to find which group is getting this amount. So out of it, there will be just one number, right? If I just write it as this. So let's say this is my subquery now. Out of this subquery, there will be just one number, that is the maximum amount. And if I get another table, so first let's say I would like to find which group is getting this amount of payments. So I can say that, okay, let's select the group number, and using the student table similar to the one I have here. So in here I'm getting something from the student table and I group them according to the group number. Again, I'm going to group the students according to the group number, but this time I'm trying to find the group number, but I will have some condition. And remember, if we have some basic conditions that are not about the groups, then I can use the where conditions. But if I'm looking something about the group, then I need to use the keyword having. So I'm going to say having, okay, group the students according to their group numbers, and for each group, let's calculate the sum of payments here. And this sum of payments should be equal to whatever I'm getting from this subquery. So we know that from this subquery, we made it so, we know that from this subquery we get the maximum of the payments. So first we look at the sum of payments for each of the groups, and then we return the maximum of it. And then this is just one value, right? Since I'm using the aggregate function. There cannot be many entries as a result. This is not a result set, this is just one number. Because of that, I can use the equals sign. Otherwise, if it was returning a set of results, I need to use the keyword in, for example. But since I know that because of the aggregate function, it will just return one value, and that value should be equal to the payment of these groups. So if I now run it like this, if I go back to my query again, now it is displaying the group number. So this group number gets the maximum payment. Yes, so in here, let's try to do it. So if you use where, first you cannot use the aggregate functions. So to be able to use the aggregate functions, you need to use the having keyword. Now if I try to run it, it will give me an error. I might say, okay, where payment is equal to this value, but then it is not about the students, right? If I try to run it, it will again, I guess, give some errors because of the grouping. Let's say I did not make any grouping and I try to say, okay, this payment should be equal to this value. Then I will get nothing because the maximum we calculate is coming from the sum of the group. We cannot find some matching. Basically, the reason we use having is because we need to make some comparison based on the result of the aggregate function. Basically, we are inspecting something about the groups. Therefore, we need to use the having. Is that clear? Any problems? Okay. With this query we get the group number. It is the group number 5. But for that group we need to list the name and payment of the students. So there is some question. Okay, could we just use having max payment statement after writing select some payments and grouping them?
So that doesn't work. Maximum payment is the maximum of amount. It's not the maximum of sum.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So for example, if there are 4 students, it looks at the student with the highest payment. It doesn't sum them and then at the maximum.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't work. Is that clear?
Okay. So for this group number, we need to find the name and payment of the students. So again, I'm going to make this a subquery. I know that from this, there could be more than one result because I'm not using the aggregate function. Therefore, when I need to make some comparisons, I need to use the keyword in. So if we forget all about this, if we are just trying to find the name and payment of the students that are in some group, and also let's say with the group ID, we know the group ID, we are trying to list the name and payment of the students that are in that group, then we would just select S name, the student's name, and payments. These are coming from the student table, and my condition is going to be for group name or group no to be equal to 5, for example, if I just directly know the group ID. But this time it is coming from a result set. So out of the subquery that I have here, currently I just get one result, right? But there could be more than one groups that has the same maximum payment. So let's say if for multiple groups we have the same sum, and if it is the maximum one, there could be more than one result returning out of this subquery. Therefore, if I'm not projecting the result of an aggregate function, then I need to use the keyword in, saying that, okay, I have a result set here, and the group number should be in this result set. Now if I get it here, and if I run it, now I will see, okay, these are the students that are in the group number 5, and the group number 5 was the maximum paid one. Any questions, problems about this one? So do you need a break, or should we just continue and finish early? What do you think? Okay, let's use the equal sign here. So instead of saying in, if we were to use the equal sign, for this instance it will work because it returns just one result. But in some cases, let's say if we try to make the, okay, for group number 1, let's try to make it the same with some other group. Okay, let's for 3 and 4, let's try to make it the same. I'm going to write some big amounts here. Okay, there are 3 people in group 5 and there are 4 people in group 4. The maximum will be 1500, and now I expect 6 students, right? With the equal sign, okay, I'm going to run this. It says that at most one record can be returned by this subquery. Now it is giving me an error because this subquery, the one that returns the group ID, for this set of entries, it did not return just one result. It returned multiple things. So if it, by chance, if it is returning one thing, there is no problem in using the equal sign. But otherwise, if it returns multiple things, and we cannot guarantee that because like most of the time we do not control the data there directly, then we need to use the keyword in. So if I run it, now I see that, okay, these are the students coming from the maximum paid group, but they are coming actually from different groups. Maybe in such queries, I should also list the group name, etc. Any other problems, questions about that? Okay. So then we are, I guess, continuing. Okay, let's continue and finish early. So now for the fifth one, it says list name, age, and payment of students who are paid more than their group heads. Okay, this time again I'm making some comparison in the same table. I need two different instances of the student table, but there is some difference. So for the student doubles, remember from an earlier question, we made the Cartesian product. We look for some relation between two students, and there was no rule for these two different students. Therefore, we just use the Cartesian product. This time it says that, okay, I should have a student, I should know the group of that student, and in that group I should know who is the leader of that group. I'm going to make comparisons between the group head and the group member. So for that I need to make the join operation as well. So if we look at into the relationships view, so I should have one student that is the group head and another student that is the member of that group. So let's start writing it. So we are going to at the end project something, and we would like to look at the student table, but I need two different students. So the payment is included in the student table. I need to use the student table. It is coming from the, let's say, the student table. On one side I need the student head, let's say S head, and on the other side I have the member, let's say S member for student member. And to make the join operation, so to know who is the group head for this group number, I need the S group table as well. So for this student to match it with a group head, I need the S group table as well. And if we didn't reduce the number of tables, we might need to use more tables here. So the other one is going to be the S group table. And there will be our conditions. So to say that this student is the head of this group, if we look at into the relationship view, the ID of the group head should match with the group head inside S group. So basically in here I need to say, okay, from the S head there is the student ID and it should be equal to the group heads. It is the foreign key inside S group table. This is one of the conditions, and I will have another condition. So this time from the S group side, I want the group number to match with the group number of this S member. It is another student. Their group nodes should match to be able to say that, okay, this member is in this group and the group's leader is the one that is called S head. And there was another condition for this one. So we would like to compare their payments. So we are going to look who is paid more than their group heads. So if we look at in the student table, I have the payments. Then I can put another condition. I'm using the AND keyword to say that, okay, these conditions should appear at the same time. So in here, I'm going to say that, okay, the S members payments should be strictly larger than the payments of S head. So if I were to put the equal sign as well. If I say greater than or equal to, then it will include the leaders as well, but I don't want that. I would like to just see whether this member is paid more than this group head. Okay, let's project things from here. What do we need? We need to list the name, age, and payment of the students, of such students. But if we would like to also show the group head, we can include such information as well. Let's say we are from the S member. Let's show the S name. Let's show the age as well, and also the payments. And to see the group leader as well, I'm going to also project the same things from the S head side. So I'm going to show the leader's name, age, and payments as well in the query. And let's include the semicolon at the end. And let's go into the query. I'm going to create a new query for that. Query design, close this dialog, go into SQL view, paste it, and run it. Now I see that, on the left side, this is some member of a group. And in that group, actually, let's also, in the SQL view at the end, let's also show, in the projection part, let's also show the group number coming from the S member. I know that they are going to be equal since I make the join operation, but I need to specify which table it is coming from. If I run it now, in the group number 1, the head is Diego, and he is getting the payment 45. And on this side, we have some members that are paid more than Diego. Actually, all 3 members are paid more than Diego. Therefore, we get these lines, etc. But for example, for group number 3, the group head is paid the most. Therefore, we don't see him here. And for some of the groups, we set the payments to be equal. It was for 3 and 4. They are also not included because we are saying that strictly larger than. We are not including the equals one. Any questions, problems about this one? So for the 6th one, now we need to make an update operation. It is not starting with lists or project. So in the homework as well, if it is saying some update operation, deletion, you should be careful about that. Selection is when we say list something, find something. But if you need to change the values, you need an update query. Now we need to double the payment of members of the group who has the lowest sum of payments. So I need to find the group with the lowest sum of payments first. But if we reuse this query, so if we remember it, in this query we were finding the group with the maximum payment. And this part was giving us the group number of this maximum paid group. If I just change this maximum into minimum, then I will be finding the minimum sum of payments within each group. So within each group, first I'm finding the sum of payments, and among those sum of payments, I'm finding the minimum one, and I'm finding the group number who has its sum equal to that minimum amount. So this is giving me the group number. It could be more than one group. And for these groups, I need to double the payment of the members in that group. With this query, we were projecting the name and payment of the students that are in that group. But this time I don't want to make a selection. I would like to update something. And when we are using the update queries, we are not defining any, let's say, any attributes, right? We are updating some attribute, we are not projecting. So I need to specify the updated attribute, or let's say. So I need to update some table, update the student table. I don't need to use, or let's say I should not use the from keyword with update queries. With update queries, the syntax is update table name followed by set attribute name equals to something. So I'm going to update the student table. I'm going to set the payment. So from that student table, the payment should be equal to payment times 2, but not for all of the students. I need to use some where condition to say that, okay, not for all of the students, but for the students that are inside this group. So the group now from the students, I know that in the student table there is a group now. This group now should be in the subquery. So basically we are updating the student table, and we are setting the payment to be equal to double of it. We are doubling the payments, but not for every student. We have a condition saying that, okay, the group number of this student should be in this result set. Remember, since this can return more than one values, I need to say in. I need to use in here. Otherwise, if it returns more than one thing, I will have problem. I cannot use the equal sign here. But this part, we already see that it returns the minimum paid group. We just changed it from max to min in here. Now if I get it and create a new query for it, go into the SQL view. Let's first maybe see which group gets the minimum payment. Now if I run it, I will have, okay, this syntax error. I should not have these parentheses around. Now I see that group number 7 gets the least amount. So if I look at the student table, these students are from group number 7. The total of this group is the minimum I see. Then using the update version, I will go back into the SQL view, paste the update version and run it. Now it says that you are about to update 4 rows. If I update them, go back into the student table again. Now I see that the students from group number 7, their payment is doubled. But now if I run the same query again, since their payment has changed, now it should work for some other group. If I go back into the student table, now I see that the students from group number 7, they have the same amount. Some other group has just updated. If I run it again, maybe it will work for a different number of students. For example, now it is updating the students in a group with 5 members in it. Any questions, problems about this one? If not, let's continue. So this time it says that list name, age and group name of students who are in the group or groups with most member count. Again, it is kind of similar, right? But this time we are interested in the member count of the groups. So we already have such a query, like, right? So with the fourth one, again, we were finding the group with the highest payment. Let's use it as a base again. Or if I just come to here, undo a couple of times. So this was finding the students in the maximum paid group. This time, instead of finding the sum of payments, I'm interested in the number of students in a group. So I'm going to count the group members, right? And find the maximum one. So let's first start with this inner one, inner subquery. So instead of saying, okay, get the sum, this time we are going to use the aggregate function count. And with this aggregate function, we can define the attribute name. But if we want to count the rows as a whole, entries as a whole, we can just use the star symbol. Basically, if I go into some of the tables, let's say if I have null values for some of the attributes, and if I'm saying count age, for example, in this case, the null values are not counted if I specify the attribute name. For that attribute, it is not going to count the null values. But if I say count with the star symbol, it will count them as complete entries. Then if some values are null, it is still going to count them. Since I'm interested in the number of the students directly, then I can just write this star symbol here. This time it is going to be the, let's say, nums2, let's say, number of students. So for this number of students, I would like to find the maximum one, right? Let's check it. So it is saying that, okay, find the group with the most member count. So I'm counting the students according to their group numbers. Within each group, I'm counting how many instances there are. And out of that, I'm finding the maximum one. And this is going to be just one value again, since I'm returning the result of an aggregate function. And this result should match with, not with the sum again, but with the count of the groups. So in this query, I was grouping the students again, but saying that my condition is for each group, the count should be equal to this number, whatever it is. So maybe let's just like see it one by one. If I get this subquery, I'm going to create a new query again. Go into the SQL view. So this is showing the number of students in each group. If I get it like this, it is going to find the maximum one. So maximum one is 5, right? If I go back to SQL view, paste it, run it, it shows the number 5. And then I'm searching which group or groups have this number. So I'm going to copy it from this part. Go back into SQL view, paste it, run it. So the groups with number 2 and 6, they have 5 members in it. And we can check it here. Okay, for group number 2, there are 5 people. And for group number 6, there are 5 people. I know the group numbers now. Then I need to find the names and payments of such students in these groups. And maybe we can also, okay, let's just use it like this right now. Go back into query, SQL view, paste it, run it. So these students are in the groups with highest payments, but I don't see their group names right now. If I would like to show the group names as well, then going back into our query. So out of here, in this student table, there is no group name, remember. I need the group S group table as well, if I were to show the group names as well. Since I include more than one table, I need to make the join operation, right? So I'm going to write it as the first condition. So I'm going to say, okay, this student's group node should match with the group node that is coming from S group. And another condition is for this student's group node. So since I included more than one table, they both have the attribute group node. I need to specify which is which table this attribute is coming from. Although I know that I make the join operation, they are going to be the same. I need to specify it, otherwise we get an error saying that I don't know which table this attribute is coming from. Then I can project the group name as well in this other part. Although in some oh, okay, we haven't used the S group. Okay, this is the first time we are using S group in this query. Not in any of the subqueries we are getting the S group. Now if I go back here, go into SQL view, paste it, run it. Now I know that they are coming from different groups. So there are 2 different groups, and these groups are have the most member counts, and these are the students in those groups. Any questions, problems about this one? Okay, now for the last one. So list each project number, description and budget along with the sum of payments of the students who are in a group that works for that project. So if we go back into the relationships view, the students groups work in some projects. If we okay, there is a question. Grup no yazsaydık, student group no yazmamız lazımdı. Grup'un yerine. Yeah, if we were to like show the group number, then we don't need to make this join operation. If we are only interested in the group number, then we can get rid of the S group table and just directly write the group number because it is included inside the student table. Now if I run it, I will see that these are the group IDs, group numbers of such students. Any other questions, problems? So in the ER diagram, if we look back into it, the student groups are working on projects. So students are not individually working in projects, but through the groups they are working in projects. And this is a many-to-many relationships, meaning that in a project there could be many groups working on, and the same group could work on many projects, and for the same project we can have many groups working basically. And now we are interested in the project number and description and budgets from the project table, along with the sum of payments of the students who are in that group that are working for that project. So, okay, in the project table I had the project number, description and budget. But for this project I need to find which groups are working, and within those groups what is the sum of payments of the students. Let's start from somewhere. So first I need to, let's say, where to start? Okay, let's first say I would like to show the project number, description and budget. Let's check the attribute names. They are included in the project table. I can just project them saying select the project number, project description and the budget. So we would like to project these, and I also need the sum of payments of the students, and we are going to need to use some subqueries for that. And let's say we give some name to that attribute. So in some subquery we are going to calculate the sum of payments of the students that are working for that project, and let's call it project sum, for example. So I don't have this attribute, but I'm going to calculate it as a result at some place and rename some value as project sum. And this information is coming from the project table. And I can also include some other table here. So basically, I need to join the project table through the relation works in with the student groups. And for each group, I'm also interested in the students. So let's say somehow I'm going to join the students with their groups in some subquery. So I'm going to include it as a result set, and let's call that result set pay groups. So for now I have the table project, and if I were to, for example, include the student table, I can just directly write next to it, right? using the keyword as, or even without the as, if it is just a table name. I can give a name to that table, but I can also include some subquery. I have not written that subquery yet, but I'm going to write some subquery in these parentheses, and that result set I'm going to call it pay groups. And in that pay groups, I will have a combination of these other things with works in, S group, and students. I will make the required join operations within there, and out of it, I will have just this group as one table. And I would like to join them somehow. Okay, let's call this maybe work groups could be like a more meaningful name, because we are combining through the works in, right? We will have those groups working on some project. And to join them, so from the project sites, I have the project number, project now, and I want the project number coming from this sub result set that I did not write yet. So their project numbers should match. So I'm trying to basically say that if I had such work groups, and within each group, if I know the sum of payments of students, then I can write some query. So if I had some table called work groups, and inside that, if there were the sum of payments of the groups that are working on some project, I would be able to write this. And now I'm going to write what we need to get as a result. Or maybe it would be, it might have been better if we started from the inside. We kinda so if you did not understand it yet, there is no problem. I'm going to like repeat it, maybe starting from the inside as well. And it might be good to do it right now, maybe. Okay. Okay, let's leave this one. Let's just start from the inside. It would be more easy to understand it, I guess. So let's first start with the payment of the groups. Let's say I would like to find the payment of each group. Then I need to select something from the student table, right? I don't have any condition, but I need to group the students according to the group numbers. And within each group, I can
Just get all students for a project, because very asks the sum of students in a project.
yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
You need to group all students at once for a project, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it like that.
Just get the students,
Mhm.
students in a project,
Yeah.
and then get the sum. Maybe that is easy.
Okay, let's do that. So we need to then join the students with their works, right? Let's say if I have some join that is showing the payment of the student and the project number that this student is working on, then we can just group according to the project number and get the result we want, right? So let's do that. Let's first join the student table and find the project number that these students are working in. So to do that, I need the student table as well as the so with the S group table, if we check the relationships view, okay, we know that through the group number I can join with S group, but since this group number is same with the one that we use in works in, I can just directly join the student table with works in. So since these are the same group number, so for a student group number, okay, I know the group's head through S group, but to be able to just find the project this student is working on, I just need the group number, and I need the relation works in that relates one group number with some project number. Then I don't need the table S group. So I'm going to get the table works in, and since at the end I'm going to need the project description and budget, I'm going to join it with the project at a later stage, but right now let's just focus on the sum of payments for these students. So I just have the student table and the works in table, and in here, since I have multiple tables, I need to make the write the join condition. From the student side, I want project no to be equal to the project no in the table works in. Sorry, group no. Yeah. So okay, this student is in this group with group number, and it is working for some project. So in here I'm interested in the project number, let's say, with such query. And let's just see the result of such query now. Going into the query design and going into the SQL view, let's just project everything coming out of this one. So we would see that, okay, we have the student name from that group, and group number 1, for example, from this works in group number, I see the group number of these students. These 4 different students are in group number 1, and they are working for project number 2. And the same group, again, with these 4 members, is working for the project number 2. So in the works in, I see the group number 1 is working on 2 different projects. Group number 2 is working only on this project number 3, for example. We see such matchings, and this time I'm interested in if I group them according to the project numbers, I would like to see the sum of payments. So going back to here, let's say, okay, let's group by the project number, because I'm interested in the total payments of the students that are working on some project. So therefore I need to group them according to the project number, not group number. Then we can project this group number along with the sum of payments. Since from this join I have the payments attribute, I can just project it. Going back to SQL view, pasting it here. Now I see I have 5 different projects. So if I look into the project view, there are 5 different projects, and project description is not unique. I see that 2 different projects are education projects, but their IDs are different, their budgets are different, etc. And I see that they are treated individually in the results as well. Now I need to also show the project number. So we are already showing the project number, but I need the description and the budget. They are coming from the project table, but since we are using the group by operation, I can only project a subset of these grouped attributes plus the aggregate function results. So I need to make some join operation here as well. So in here we were like starting kinda our thing, right? So we would like to project the project number, the project description, budget, and the sum of the project. We called it project sum previously. So let's say this sum result is, its column name is going to be the project sum. And instead of saying, okay, from this, we need again the project table. And for the projects that I show this information, their project numbers should come from this result set. Or let's say, okay, sorry about that. We need to make the join operation. Then I need the var condition. So for this projects, the project number should be in the result set that is coming out of here, which is this project number. but I need to give a name to this result set basically. So I can say this, okay, these are the work groups. And this is some table. I need to join it with the other one. Therefore, I need to include it as a new table. So work groups is just another table, but I calculate it as a result set of some subquery. I can just say in here, okay, this work groups should have the equal project number, etc. So this is just basically one other table. We renamed it as work groups. We included it after the from keyword. It is going to make the Cartesian product by default, but we are saying that, okay, instead of making the Cartesian product, these two projects should be the same thing. We know that we are saying the project numbers should be equal to. And from this work groups, now I can get the project sum. So the reason that we need the join operation is because since we are using the group by operation, we cannot get the description and budget information. And since project no can come from two different places, I still need to specify in the selection part, I need to say, okay, project number is coming from the project table. But I know that since I make the join operation, I can also get it from the work groups table as well. It is going to be the same thing. So let's come to here and try this query. So now we see that, okay, these are my different projects, their descriptions, budgets, and these are the sum of payments of the students that are working for that project. So these are not specifically the sum of payments for groups. In some projects, there are multiple groups working, and we see the sum of all groups, basically. And maybe we can, like afterwards, we can make some comparisons. Okay, are these students are paid enough? What is the budget of the project, etc. We can make further comparisons. So any questions, problems? So otherwise we are going to finish now. I'm going to inform you later about how you can access this recorded one. We are going to also put the query results. It could be, I could just maybe save this database, or we can give you it as a PDF file. So thank you for listening. If you don't have any other questions, we are going to finish. Okay, thanks. See you later. Sağ ol Süleyman, görüşürüz.